So have you ever wondered what changing your breathing techniques or how changing your breathing frequency, the depth of your breathing, or even doing something like the physiological sigh affects your CO2 levels in your body? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of cueing, especially around breathing practices that are typically slow breathing practices. But also I'm going to show you a demonstration on what happens when we do the physiological sigh and how it might not actually be the best way for us to practice breath work. In this video, I am going to be using something called a capnography device. And what a capnography device does, this is a Capno trainer by Better Physiology. This can measure the end tidal carbon dioxide. So end tidal carbon dioxide is, if you imagine at the end of a tidal breath, a natural breath out, at the end point, what is the concentration of carbon dioxide, which then is a reflection of the concentration of carbon dioxide in the alveoli, which is a reasonably good reflection at rest, particularly in healthy people, the level of carbon dioxide in their blood. Now, why is this important? Well, this is very important because people who have functional breathing align their breathing mechanics with their biochemistry, and that means that we are keeping our CO2 levels in a range between 35 to 45 millimeters of mercury, which is keeping our acid-base balance stable, which is allowing for ideal cognition, ideal blood flow, ideal kind of ability to say concentration and focus and calm within homeostasis. That's really what we're looking for within functional breathing. Being and continuing to be in homeostasis, or at least if we go outside, we can return back to homeostasis as easy as possible. So this video, I'm going to show you what happens when you're just resting. I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to break this down and going to show you what it looks like on this capnography device at every single breath we take. Then I'm going to breathe deeper breaths and show you how that impacts our biochemistry, our CO2 levels, and talk you through that. Then I'm going to increase breathing frequency and show you what happens there. I'm going to show you what happens when we then take resonant frequency breathing around about 6 breaths per minute, but taking deep breaths and pushing the exhale out. And then looking at what happens when we actually use NGSE breathing as a practice and a cueing, and speaking about the cueing to ensure that we maintain CO2 levels or even increase CO2 levels slightly so we can start to move into that air hunger tolerance training. So we're going to dive straight into the narration now. It's going to be overlaid on the screen as I'm actually doing this live, and I'm going to give you a narration and hopefully get some education from that. All right, and we are diving straight in. So at the top right here, you can see every breath I take in, the pin or the line drops down back to 0, and then my breath comes out, it goes back up again. When we are above the red line, that means we're in the range of 35 to 40 millimeters of mercury. Obviously, the higher we go, the larger the amount of carbon dioxide we're retaining. As that line comes down and drops below the red line, that means we're starting to overbreathe. So right now, I'm just paying attention to my breathing, and we can see that we are hitting around about probably about just short of 40 millimeters of mercury, which is spot on for what we want with our biomechanics and our chemistry, showing and demonstrating here functional breathing. I'm going to take you through some different kind of paces. In a moment, we're going to take some deeper breaths. So what does it happen when we start to take larger breaths in? So now I'm breathing a bit more deeper. So this might be an example when someone says you need to take a deep breath to relax. You can start to see already, whilst the rate hasn't changed too much, we are starting to see the end part of that peak popping up, starting to become below the red line. Why is that? There's more air into the alveoli. As you bring more air into the alveoli, you're going to breathe more air out. That means you're going to get greater gas exchange, as well as taking more air in, meaning more air out, basically blowing off too much carbon dioxide for the state I'm currently in. I am not in an exercise state, I'm in a resting state, so I do not need to take large breaths or deep breaths at all based off metabolism. I was actually starting to feel a little bit blurred in my head. My focus was starting to disappear. I was getting a little bit lightheaded. These are all signs of low carbon dioxide, hypocapnia, and sometimes people don't even realize they're in it. I've stopped now, taking my breathing back to normal breathing, just letting go. And then we can see within 1 or 2 breaths, I am back up to around about 35 millimeters of mercury and back into homeostasis, showing again good ability to recover from low carbon. What we're going to do next is we are to speed up the frequency of breathing. Okay, And we're going to see what happens when we start to breathe a little bit more faster and forceful. This might be a Kapalbhati breath, for example. And here we go. Straight away, we are dropping down to around about below 25 millimeters of mercury. So severe hypocapnia from doing sharp, fast inhales. Again, getting lightheaded, getting a bit of brain fog, blurred vision. You can see in the red line just underneath the peaks as well, the dropping here in that bottom right box. That is the negative capnia index. Capnia index being low, meaning we're dropping below our normal range of CO2. Stopping there, and you can see within a few breaths, I am starting to recover. Now we're going to start to look at what happens if we don't have the appropriate cueing, but we start to get someone to do, let's say, resonant frequency breathing or just slow breathing in general, around about 6 breaths per minute. But we don't cue them to have nasal, gentle, slow, expansive breathing. Maybe they are trying to push the air out and pull the air in for 3 seconds and 6 seconds out, but they're actually actively doing this by trying to push out the exhale to make the exhale longer. So I'm breathing in for 3, 2, 1, and then pushing out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can see the longer curve. That first one was okay. Second breath there, still we're hitting about 35 minutes of mercury. So still, we're okay. We've only taken 2 breaths. Now we're into our 3rd breath. It's getting a little bit lower. So we're not even a minute in here, 30 seconds in. We're coming up to about 36 seconds in, and we're starting to drop down below that line. And if we think traditionally we're going to do this as a breath practice for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm not even a minute in, and yeah, it's not dropping so fast, and that's also because I'm in a pretty good position of just having good mechanics and chemistry binding together. My respiration's in a good position, let's say. But now we can see, as I'm taking deeper breaths and forceful breaths, it's just slowly starting to come below that line, right? This is a state of hypocapnia. This is still dysfunctional breathing, despite mechanically having good breathing mechanics. It's just not aligning with my respiration because I'm still forcing that exhale out. And we're starting now to get around about 30 millimeters of mercury. And again, this in individuals might lead to feelings of fatigue, feelings of panic, feelings of anxiety, brain fog, cognitive issues, reduced blood flow to the frontal cortex, feeling a bit emotional. A lot of behaviors might present in this sort of feeling sensation now. Actually, in feeling a little bit disconnected, dissociated, and a bit blurry from the vision. You can see on the capnia index as well, in that bottom right graph, it's getting to a red and quite a deep negative. And this is just simply because we are pushing too much CO2 out, because we're extending the exhale forcefully to try and fill 6 seconds versus just allowing the exhale just to passively come out, or even putting a little bit of a retainer on there. So we're going to stop that now and coming back to normal breathing. Again, you can see in a few breaths I do recover, and this time around what we're going to do is we're going to do nasal, gentle, slow, expansive, and imagine that we're cueing an individual to just imagine that the waterfall is the air is coming out of the nose, and the role is just to make that exhale as gentle and allow it to be as gentle as possible, and slowing that breath right down. So inhale for 3, 2, 1, and just slowing the exhale gentle out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So whenever I'm cueing, I'm always thinking flow. Imagine flow of water coming out of the nose, and the job is just to calm that flow and make it as slowly, just to fill the 6 seconds versus trying to push it out for 6 seconds. And you can see the difference here in the shape of the curve. The curve is going for a lot longer at the top. We are hitting above the red line each breath. In fact, it even looks like the peak is getting a little bit higher, suggesting that with the slow, prolonged exhale, we might be retaining a bit more carbon dioxide in the system. Obviously, when we start to slow down the breath even further, going down to 5 or 4 or 3 breaths per minute, we might start to experience air hunger. I wasn't particularly feeling any air hunger here. I'm getting to about 40 millimeters of mercury. I typically start to feel air hunger around about 43 millimeters of mercury. But you can just see the difference, simple difference from someone trying to push an exhale out versus just kind of retaining a little bit of relaxation on that exhale and just allowing it to come out passively. Even in that bottom right graph now, we're getting a pink bar come up, which is a positive capnia, meaning that CO2 levels are actually slightly increasing. So now this person, me at the moment, very focused. I feel clear-headed. The screen was very easy to see, despite it being about a meter or two in front of me. I was feeling quite calm. I feel my exhale is just passive, and it's just my breathing just feels completely natural. Perfect. This is the difference between an individual doing resonant frequency or coherent breathing wrong and someone doing it with kind of a good example of just able to stabilize gases and even potentially bring a bit of that air hunger tolerance training into there as well. So finally, we are coming back to normal breathing in a moment, and I am going to finish off by showing you what happens when someone does the famous physiological sigh that Andrew Huberman teaches. Okay, so perfect. So now we're going to take a deep breath in, double breath in, exhale out, double breath in, exhale out, double breath in, exhale out, double breath in, exhale out. And you can see again, straight away, we are just dropping CO2 levels. Now, how do we know whether this is stress relieving or whether the person is just disconnecting from the sensations in their body? Maybe they're starting to get a bit disorientated, and actually that feels like it's already a form of relaxation. Many people do struggle to distinguish between relaxation and dissociation. That's because dissociation is just an element of just getting out of space. But for me, that was enough. And within a few breaths again, 1, 2 natural breaths, just going back to being the observer, we are back up to normal carbon dioxide levels. So I hope this was informative for you. This was just to help to explain the importance of cueing and the importance of a softer, gentle exhale, even with slow breathing. And I hope you enjoyed that. Now, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, I would love to understand this more deeply. I would love to be able to support my clients in a better way as a breath coach or a breathwork facilitator, and just to understand the mechanics, the biochemistry, the nervous system, the emotions, the neural systems in our brain, then you might want to check out the Breath Science certification at www.breathscience.com.au and submit our application. If not, join our community space. On the video down below, I'm going to pop a link so you can join our free community space, and in there you'll also be able to see where we have our paid community areas such as masterminds, journal club, free breathwork sessions, workshops, etc., with a huge video portfolio to up-level your learning in breath science. Check it out at theschoolofbreathscience.com. Link below in the video.